What is up, RotoGrinders? Dean here, Dean78904. If you want to get all technical, 2 hours nonstop MLB DFS conversation starting right now. Taking you all the way up to first pitch in about 2 hours and 5 minutes. Crunch time coming in an hour and change. Myself, Kyle Murray. We have a 9-game baseball slate. Lots of afternoon baseball going on. Just saw Cedric Mullins banged out a grand slam, so shout out to him if you stacked Baltimore. I think Gunnar also got one too, so that Baltimore stack is clicking early. Kyle, happy Wednesday. Welcome back. The people demanded more Kyle. We got more Kyle. We're doing it again. We're running it back. How are things? How's Wednesday treating you?
Yeah, I'm surprised they asked me back after I touted Jackson Jobe last week, and I think he put up -10 DraftKings points. He did have a good start, the start after that, but obviously it's a little different not pitching in cores. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking some more baseball with you. I'm glad to be back.
People, I would never do this, but people might accuse you of being a homer by recommending Jackson Jobe. I'm not sure, but you do get your hobby. Yeah. I was gonna shout you. Yeah, the Javi Baez, and he hasn't stopped. He's been throwing that right in my face. I besmirched Javi Baez in the year 2025, but I've not. I mean, I'm here, but I'm taking the L's basically every single start. He had that walk-off homer last night. Good I'm happy for him, and I'm happy. I hope Detroit. Detroit sports has been better of late, so good for them. The Lions, obviously, a sad ending to the season, but Detroit, the Pistons they're on their way up, and I guess the Red Wings still stink, right? Yeah, they're still not very. They have some young pieces. They got some young pieces out there in Detroit, though. TJ's telling us, producer TJ's telling us to smash the like button, not just to be kind and help us to boost the old algorithm, but you can do it for selfish reasons. If you want to be selfish and you want Spidey bombs, every 50 likes, I think it is. So I don't want to speak for Spidey. I think it's every 50 likes. And Spidey will go ahead and drop those Spidey bombs. Scrolling on the chat there, not in the chat, just on the screen. All right, yeah, we have a 9-gamer tonight. We're talking a little basketball before the show. Possibly 2 teams getting knocked out. Boston on the verge, down 3-1, and Golden State on the verge. So yeah, it's a couple of crucial basketball games, and of course, mentioning hockey, I got to shout out my Florida Panthers as well. Huge, critical. When they describe critical game 5 is always critical. And they say coming up next, critical game 5. They never say game 1's critical, but game 5, always critical. Critical game 5 for the Panthers and Toronto. I guess I'm stalling, Kyle, because this slate, man, I don't know. There's no positive hitting environments. There's not a lot of good pitchers. Yeah, give me the overview. What are you seeing as far as this slate tonight? Are we excited about it? Are we not excited about it? The Dodgers got a big team total here against Gunnar Hoglund, who may be okay. We're not sure. Kind of a small sample size there. Colton Gordon making his MLB debut, and I'm supposed to like him because he went to UCF, but he doesn't look special in any particular way. It's kind of bad. It's Patrick Corbin is like a possible player to roster tonight in the year 2025. God. You can do that, I think, maybe. Bad weather in Chicago again. The wind is blowing in. We saw, it wreaked havoc last night. 7.5 team total. Ryan Weathers making his debut tonight for the Marlins. I guess the best ballparks for weather tonight would be Cincinnati and Atlanta. It's going to be in the 80s in Atlanta, in the 70s or so. In Cincy, of course, Cincy, a positive ballpark for hitting baseballs as well. Not the best lineup, really. It's De La Cruz and a bunch of dudes mostly. Friedel got hurt, not in that lineup today. Will Benson in there. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Will Benson this season. But give me your screenshot. Are you as lukewarm on this slate as I am? Because I'm playing it. I did the research. We all have the same puzzle pieces. I don't love it. Tell me how you feel.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Like the pitching, we don't have a ton of elite options. Obviously, Yamamoto up at the top, but similar to last Wednesday when I was on the show, pitching slate fairly weak. And you mentioned Patrick Corbin is a viable option. Obviously, he gets helped along by Colorado with Jackson Jobe face last time I was on the show. And honestly, it's the hope that kills you. So maybe it might just be better off saying, hey, I'll just take the -10 from Jobe last week. I don't even want the hope that Corbin might be positive. Also, all jokes aside, I do think it's a fairly weak pitching slate, top to bottom, honestly, other than a couple guys at the top. But a couple pieces in the mid-range that I think we can, chase some upside from, in terms of looking at some guys in that 8.5 to 9K range. I like Lodolo quite a bit. I do think he's gonna be pretty popular, but on slates like this where there's very popular pitching pieces that I don't typically like a ton, it's usually a good time to stack against them. But I think a lot of the reasons why a lot of these guys are popular tonight is because of the matchup is so good and the offenses are very weak. So it's kind of a weird slate. Like there's not a ton of great leverage to find here. The A's have been seemingly hitting 3, 4, 5 home runs a night, even when they're on the road. I know they did that last night. Obviously helped along a little bit by Miguel Rojas throwing some meatballs in there in the 9th inning. But
who got Rojas at the end? I didn't see that. I tapped out at that point. He gave up a homer. I saw the score was 11-1. Did it get worse?
Yeah, Andujar hit a home run, and then who was it?
I saw Kurtz homered, but that was off a real live pitcher, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was earlier in the day. But yeah, Andujar, and then somebody went back to back. I can look it up.
Blade, maybe Blade.
I think Blade also hit one off of a real pitcher, but
okay. We also got a couple off real pitchers too, I believe.
Yeah, he was fairly early in the year. It was Blade. Yeah, Andujar and then Blade back to back.
And they, of course, they're facing, I would say, pretty clearly the best pitcher on the slate, and Yamamoto. If you're looking at ownership stuff right now, currently on DK, we're basically splitting Holmes, Yamamoto, and Lodolo 35, 36, 37%. And you can throw Taillon into the conversation. Good matchup, not a great arm, but professional pitcher, Jameson Taillon, again, which is not necessarily a compliment. He does throw baseballs for a living. He's been doing it for a while. But he's in an excellent hitting environment, excellent pitching environment to subdue hitting. And of course, the Marlins are a positive matchup. So it's kind of those four basically in their own grouping. Lodolo 37, Yamamoto 36, Holmes 35, Taillon 31, probably some combination of those four as far as the first four most popular. And then Chris Bassett, his Ks have jumped up a little bit this year. I think it's kind of sort of somewhat fraudulent. Patrick Corbin, because he's facing the Rockies. The Randy Vasquez thing, I just can't do it. Like, again, I have a rule. I have some rules, and sometimes I'm willing to break my rules, Kyle. But if your walk rate is higher than your strikeout rate, unless your walk rate is like 41% and your K rate is like 48%, which I don't think we've ever seen before.
I don't think so.
Which would be amazing to watch, by the way, as a side note, if that pitcher existed. I can't roster a pitcher that walks more people than he strikes out, and that's Vasquez at 14.5%. And he survived the last time out. He's got a 3.76 ERA somehow. His Sierra is 6.38, and his xFIP is 6.21. We talk about the regression monster. 5.8% homer to fly ball. Everything says the regression monster is lurking to chase down Randy Vasquez one of these days. Will be tonight. I don't know. The Angels, not great. They're cheap. They're still cheap on DK. We'll have that conversation when we start talking about stacks. But I kind of work backwards too. Like I'm just not going to be playing certain pitchers. Like I'm not playing Senzatella. Let's see who can we cross out and leave standing. Right? We can play the guess who game, and which faces are still left. Davis Martin, probably not going to do that. But do you have any like hard stands here? Pittsburgh, maybe they might be without O'Neal Cruz again. Probably, likely, I would say. So Clay Holmes against a Pirates team that is really bad without their best hitter. That lineup has not dropped just yet, unless I missed it. It's coming out in 2 hours, so maybe they're working them out pregame or something like that. Marlins lineup just dropped, but yeah, no Pirates. I do want to take a look at Ross Weather as well. Roth not in later, but I would imagine, I don't know this for certain, he will be updating his article. I'll drop the article in chat for the people as well. But really nothing of note. Green in Chicago, but again, Roth is telling us what the Weather Edge is telling us, that it's a good ballpark for pitching tonight. Cincinnati, green, yellow for the Mets, yellow, green for Atlanta. So nothing alarming as far as I can tell. Help me parse through, Kyle. Are we taking any hard stands as far as these pitchers? Are we taking two of these four? You mentioned some of the guys in the mid-tier. I guess we'll call it the mid-tier. Lodolo, Holmes, I guess Taillon, Bassett. Is that what we're working? I'm just finding the money for Yamamoto. I know the Athletics are good, but he's got the biggest upside. Even if he gives up a couple homers, he probably doesn't have a clean sheet, but that's where I'm going first.
Yeah, for me, I'm pretty much crossing off everybody that is 7K or cheaper other than Vasquez, like if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I know it's ugly, but he is so cheap. And like, I kind of have a rule to where like, if someone is 5K and I think that they can make it through 5 innings, they're at least in consideration. Vasquez was one of the guys that I thought was potentially going to be a little bit popular. He projects well for us, projects well for Cardi. So usually those are two of the primary sources in the industry. So that could drive some ownership, so this 7.5 number that we have currently in our ownership projections could be a little bit lower. So I am a little bit, cognizant of that. And that would, don't get me wrong. When I say have some Vasquez, also have some Angels for sure. I think just in terms of if you're building a bunch of lineups, having one guy as a value option doesn't hurt. And again, you don't have a ton of expectations for Vasquez. He's simply a salary relief type guy. He's probably the only guy I'm looking at with any sort of serious consideration under 7.2 at 5.3. And again, he's just so cheap. The Angels aren't necessarily a terrible matchup. So again, he's not good. You alluded to the strikeout numbers. He doesn't really have any upside. He did break my heart last time. I took his under 3.5 strikeouts. He had 5, which was a tied for a season high, I believe. So that was fun. But so he's the only guy I'm really considering in that range. For me, you're definitely starting with one of these top 3 guys. I think most likely you're starting with Yamamoto, but Yamamoto, Holmes, Lodolo, those are the top 3 for me on this slate. Lodolo is a guy that I was kind of hoping would have some lower ownership. I sort of assumed that the public would really flock to Clay Holmes and Jameson Taillon, which that could still happen. And maybe there's going to be some steam on those guys. And maybe we get a little bit of a softer number on Lodolo, tougher ballpark. Obviously a very good matchup against, as we talked about last week, a very unserious franchise in the White Sox. But Lodolo is a guy that I like quite a bit. I did a lot of futures on this Reds team before the season started. And a lot of it was because of the pitching staff. Like when you consider a guy like Lodolo as like a back end starter for this team, I like their staff. So I like this spot for him against a very soft White Sox team. He has not been good this year. I'll get that out of the way. In terms of his strikeout upside, his walk number has been down. So usually when you see that, you kind of like to think that a guy is pitching to contact more, which we don't necessarily love, but he is a guy who pitches to contact pretty well. He has a 47% ground ball rate. So that's a solid number there. The hard contact is a bit up. So he's probably trying to induce some more contact on the ground, and that's taken away from the strikeout upside, which is a bummer, but I still think he has that in his arsenal. And again, this White Sox matchup is very good. So Lodolo, I like quite a bit. I do think that maybe a guy like Holmes has a bit of a higher ceiling here against the Pirates, but nonetheless, starting my lineups with at least one of those guys. And then you can even throw Taillon in there and say 2 of those 4 if you wanted to kind of cut the nonsense out of the back end. There's a couple other guys that I like Pepio, I don't mind either. Obviously, the matchup's not great, but he's a guy, again, who we've seen strikeout regression, obviously allowing more power, but last start did seem to find something, had a pretty decent start, didn't give up much power, only gave up 2 hits in a tough matchup against Philly. Only had 3 strikeouts, but again, I'm assuming that there's something there that is essentially just getting back into that top form that he did have last year. I mean, he was a good pitcher last year, 26% strikeout rate. That's down to 20% this year. So again, I think he'll probably balance out a bit. And the power numbers have been rough this year. So again, he's a very low owned pitcher for a reason, right? There are some red flags here in his current data, but is a guy that I do like quite a bit. Patrick Corbin. Not playing. I'm not doing it. Can't do that. Will not even consider it. Can't do it.
Have you heard of the Rockies though? As the counterpoint, but I hear you. And I don't want to click on that either. How many lineups you making tonight? What's your standard? Are you sticking with the standard? What are we rolling out this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing 3 on each side again.
You mentioned Pepio. Yeah, the ISO at 244 on this season. Possibly that the new ballpark was hurting him. I would imagine. I don't have the home road stuff in front of me, but I would imagine so. And a Toronto team that's really contact heavy, with the exception of Clase and Varsho, but collectively 18.6%. That's another thing as far as you were talking about Lodolo and his strikeouts being down this year, and you combine that with the White Sox. Yes, they're not serious, but they don't strike out. They pop up and they ground out a lot. Yeah. They are pesky, if you will. On the season, actually, this is dating back to last year, bigger sample, 19% as far as K is just Luis Robert. You like seeing Michael A. Taylor in there. Like he's always good for a couple strikeouts. He does have really big power when he actually hits the baseball. At least he has historically.
Yeah.
Seems like the kind of guy that could probably get a ball 450 feet off Lodolo if he somehow makes contact, especially in that ballpark. But you mentioned the rules, and I kind of have that same rule you talked about. Like if a guy can throw, if you can say, yeah, if things are going well, he can throw 5 or 6 innings, and he's in the 5Ks. I don't know which rule to weight more. Like I did my strikeout to walk rule, or like the if this guy is super super cheap and he can go 5 innings. Which rule goes first? Which rule is prioritized? Randy Vasquez, I was talking about.
Yeah.
I guess you're throwing him in the possible bucket. And I hear you. I mean, because again, the other part of it is the pitching it's not strong, so the opportunity cost is not massive. So if I give you 12 points for Randy Vasquez, no more, no less, you probably take it. I think you take that. You take 12 points. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at 5.3, obviously it does depend on, what you're able to get bats wise. And obviously you'll hopefully ideally get 25 plus from Yamamoto up at the top, assuming that you're spending up there. So, it's hard to answer like, steadfast, this should be the rule for every slate. But I do think, slate dependent. Like if you're looking for a little bit more upside at the pitching position, maybe hitting's pretty weak. Obviously, it makes it a little bit more of a difficult case to be able to punt there. But if it's a weak pitching slate to where you're like, there's a decent chance that like other than 1 or 2 guys, 14 or 15 points is like going to be the 3rd, 4th most points scored on the slate, and you get 12 from a guy that's 5K, like, yeah, he's definitely in play. But there's going to be plenty of slates as well where you're looking at 5, 6, 7 guys who are putting up 20 plus. And at that rate, what is 11 or 12 points getting from you? And then you're also considering the fact that, okay, if you don't get anything from your bats, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot twice. So yeah, it definitely depends on the slate. Today, I think he's in play. I don't think you necessarily need to go there, but I think he's definitely in play just because, again, like we're talking about, at least 2 guys who are going to be over 30% in our ownership projections, and Jameson Taillon and then Nick Lodolo. Lodolo, like I mentioned, I liked, and the matchup is probably not one that he's going to get roughed up in, but he's a guy that's given up a lot of power this year, and Taillon, we know, has been an up and down pitcher pretty much his entire career. So, I mean, if those 2 guys are going to be 30% owned and Vasquez can be within 2 or 3 points of them, he's definitely in play.
Taillon has the trifecta today. He's facing a terrible offense in the Marlins. He's in an awesome pitching environment in Chicago with the wind blowing in. And he has Ron Culpa, extreme pitchers umpire. So if he can't get it done here, I mean, he's well positioned. The only thing working against Jameson Taillon is the fact he's Jameson Taillon. Besides that, one extreme hitters umpire, by the way, it is a hitters umpire for Clay Holmes and Bailey Falter. That is our extremes. Do you care about that? I mean, we talk about this stuff on occasion. The umpire stuff is like a tiebreaker for you. Does it depend on who's actually throwing the baseballs? If it's Robbie Ray, you need that umpire. If it's a control guy, you don't really care.
I would say it's more of a tiebreaker, or like, more of a positive or negative factor that I'll look at more in terms of props. But in terms of DFS, like if I like a guy, I'm not going to not like him because of an umpire or vice versa. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, today I like Bailey Falter because of an ump. So I think it's more of a tiebreaker, and then props, because again, props, you can have a guy who's got a 3.5 strikeout line and you can have some sort of edge there, not necessarily need him for DFS. But I'll add one more to the effect of Jameson Taillon. I guess that'd be what the you call it the trifecta, the quadfecta. Also reverse splits guy, so he struggles more against righties. You look at these guys in the Marlins lineup that you'd typically be afraid of: Sanchez, Stowers, Mervis, all lefties. So I think the matchup is even better for him there.
Let's see. Taking a peek at last season. Let's combine the last 2 years for Taillon. Yeah, Taillon, the right-hander. Let's see. Is there reverse splits? Is that just this season specifically?
Yeah,
is
it's
that
just this season, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never really know what to do with that either, because like it's, we're talking about 100 bats versus lefties, 81 versus righties. It's probably like a Cardi question. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you have thoughts, by all means. But I never, like, pitchers are always kind of changing and tinkering their arsenal. So once you kind of figure it out, then all of a sudden they're throwing the curveball more to righties or however it may be. And then you never really know. It's just a fluid situation. Some guys are just, they are what they are, like Verlander's reverse splits. You just sort of know certain guys.
Yeah.
But that is interesting and of note. Again, do hit that like button if you guys hang out in chat. It looks like 15 likes till we get the first Spidey Bomb. That was a bit ago, so hopefully we've compiled some more. TJ producing today, producer extraordinary. He's brought his buddy Spidey. Every 50 likes, Spidey will drop his Spidey bombs. You mentioned player props. I know you're right for stuff for scores and odds on occasion. Do you have any for the people? Anything to tease them with? And any in the back pocket? Anything you wrote up? Any sport, if you have anything, by all means.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say I should have come more prepared because I don't have any for MLB today, but I do have a few for NBA. So we have the prop model plays over there. I got 4 that I've uploaded for the prop model. We like Trace Jackson Davis over 8.5 points and rebounds. We like Gary Payton under 5.5 points.
Let's keep 2 more. We gotta incentivize the people. Give them 2. We'll bet the beak. So the 2 were Payton. Was that Payton over or under? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Payton under 5.5 points, and then TJD over 8.5 points and rebounds.
All right, and we'll circle back. When we get the appropriate amount of likes, we'll all of a sudden give the people the last 2. Do check out the link in the description, by the way, if you're in the prop streets for sportsbook stuff, for underdog, for prize picks, all depending upon your state. Michigan, you guys have sports betting, right? You have sports books, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, but no underdog.
Nope. The sportsbook lobbied against underdog a couple years ago, so we lost it, unfortunately.
Imagine that the sportsbook does not want you spending money. I'm sure they were doing it, because they were concerned that too many people were losing money out of the goodness of their heart, and they had no incentive. All right. Anything else of note as far as pitchers before we pivot and talk about some stacks, talk about some tiers, talk about some hitters?
No, I think I mentioned like the 4 guys that I like are unfortunately the chalk, Yamamoto, Holmes, Lodolo, and Tyone. And then I do think Vasquez is in play as a cheap option. I mentioned Pepio. I think he's the other guy that I would potentially have in for tournaments. Again, strictly a low-owned play and sort of just hoping that he does sort of get some positive regression back to last year's strikeout stuff. You made a great call. Obviously, pitching in that little league ballpark at home is, an unfortunate disadvantage that pitchers have for the Rays now. But, now he's on the road, so that's something that's at least going to, even the scale a bit. It is not a great matchup for strikeouts, like you mentioned. A lot of these Toronto guys, don't strike out a whole lot. But again, just looking for some leverage, he would probably be the guy that I like the most. And that's not necessarily a ringing endorsement of him, more so just a lack of other options on the board. And then I mentioned Corbin. We have him at 15% projected ownership. I personally can't do it. He's not even cheap either. He's 8.3, and I, at this point, would rather stack the Rockies than use Patrick Corbin. And I know that's disgusting to say.
It's a Sophie's choice for sure. I think, he's 7.8 on FanDuel, or I don't know how much you need that salary, and again, FanDuel, you can't miss, right? You got to get it right over there. You only got one pitcher, but I don't want to wait on that. I'm walking that back. I don't want to endorse Corbin in any capacity. Hey, do you think we get rushing catching today, or at least DHing today for the Dodgers? He's 2-2 on DK. You guys missed it. Dodgers called up their big prospect Dalton Rushing. The back end of that offense, the front end obviously is spectacular. They're also without Teoscar, a little bit weaker these days. Like Outman's been terrible. Obviously like Barnes. Barnes is gone, which Clayton Kershaw's got to be pissed, right? That was his personal caddy like forever. Yeah. I feel like he was like the traditional like good locker room guy. Like they just kind of let him stick around. Backup catcher. But yeah, he got DFA'd. Dalton Rushing, is he going to play tonight? What do you think? We obviously know a lot of just speculating, but I'm sort of thinking he'd be an interesting cheapie at 2-2. Catcher eligible.
Yeah, that's a good question. Was that announced today that he's coming up, or was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually when they call these guys up, they don't want to have them sit around, so they usually get them in there as fast as possible when they make those call ups. But so I wouldn't be. I would, if I had to guess right now, I would say yeah, and then obviously they can still put Smith in the DH or do a couple different things. So yeah, I would say most likely.
Yeah, we've seen it a couple times where they call these guys up and they give them a day to sort of acclimate. We saw that with Kurtz, and I think we saw that with Lawler as well. Different teams, different philosophies. Maybe DHs and Smith catches. I'm not sure, but a
couple options.
Just kind of I have my eye because I'm thinking about Dodger stack like Outman and Rushing, and that's one easy way to make it. But I guess everybody else will do the same thing. It's like, oh, okay, the 2 cheapies, and you get Betts, Freeman, and somebody else. All right, let's go ahead. Let's throw some name. Oh, by the way, the first Spidey bomb is scrolling. It's Mark Vientos. And Spidey's feeling kind today because it's not every 50 likes, every 25 likes. Every 25 likes, Spidey will drop another one. And I guess, Kyle, you'll give the people another one of your player props out there. I mentioned, the link in the description if you're, Prize Picks, Underdog, hitting up the player props in your sports book. Do check out the link in the description for you get 50% off your first month. The content there for RotoGrinders here on the YouTube. Also, RG Premium, baseball is the same price. If you want baseball, that's all you want. By all means, pay for baseball, get yourself the entire season. But if you commit to 6 months, you get the same exact price: baseball, football, basketball, hockey, MMA, PGA. 6-month commitment. Links in the description. It's 35% off the standard price. All the bells, all the whistles, all the articles. The optimizer, lineup HQ, plate IQ. You get, CheeseIsGood's article. You get Weather Edge from Roth. Myself and Kyle and everybody else does content here. You get it all for free not for free, but once you're in, you're in. You get all the goods. You get the premium Discord channels, anything you want. So do check out the link in the description for that. Kyle, you also, I think you also have some PGA stuff out there too. I think didn't you put some outrights? Somebody hit an outright last week, or no, they just missed. They just missed because I had a sweat and I could have bought out on it. I can't remember who it was, but I think they finished second or third. They faltered down the stretch. They were leading up to 3 rounds, and somebody wrote them up. And they ask you in the sports book, hey, you want to buy out? And almost never, when they offer you something, it's never a good idea. It's just speaking of general rules. And I didn't take it. And I think he finished second or third or something like that. But do you have you want to give the people one of your takes there too? Sure. Feel free to fire it off. I think there's a lot of stuff written up. Noto wrote some things out there. STL Cards, I believe, participated in it. Do you recall one of your outrights, one of your bold outrights for the championship this week?
Yeah, PGA Championship. I think I have 5 or 6 up there. You want the most bold one that I have? Is that what you're asking?
Sure, why not?
The longest shot that I have right now is Corey Connors at plus at 70-1. So I like him there. I also like him top 20 at plus 210. I put this in Tuesday morning, so these numbers might have moved. I'm not sure, but that's where I got them on Tuesday morning. So Corey Connors outright winner, 70-1. That was on FanDuel, and then plus 210 for top 20.
Connors kind of stunk it up last week, right? If I'm not mistaken. I think I had him on a lot of my DFS stuff, and I think he had a rough week. I'm not a golf guy, but I'll follow the golf content, and I think he was really popular and wasn't very good. Does that sound right?
Looks like I think he did all right. T11, so not too bad.
Okay, never mind. Maybe he stumbled at the gate and he closed strong.
He did have a tough round 2, and then had a good weekend. So Corey Connors, he's usually pretty consistent. The top end upside has been lacking for Connors. He's been in contention in a lot of these big tournaments and just hasn't been able to, pull away with one. But you don't do it until you finally do, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping for this week.
He's like a Luis Ariz. I'm trying to think how to compare him to baseball. Like, he's probably not going to win this late, but maybe put him in the stack. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll stay in my lane. I don't know anything about golf. I just follow.
You just picked the guy in the MLB with the least amount of power and compared him to one of the biggest power hitters in all of PGA.
Oh, is he a bomber? Is he? I don't know. I listen to.
He is. I guess golf's not my lane either, but I'm pretty sure he is.
He hits it. Yeah, he's more of an accuracy guy. It's not like a super bomber on the PGA Tour, but definitely right around average, probably just above average in terms of distance.
Is the biggest bomber still Bryson?
You got to assume I'm going to be pumping him up a few more tiers than he deserves to be.
There you go. Is Bryson still the biggest bomber right now, Kyle?
Yeah, he's technically. Yeah, I would say he's probably number 1. I mean, there's a couple of guys who actually have the PGA Tour data. Obviously, Rory's up there, and there's a couple of random guys like Cameron Champ who just mash the ball. But
great name.
Bryson. What's that?
Cameron Champ is a great name.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Cameron Champ. I want him in my lineup.
Yeah, he's a bomber. He's very inconsistent, but so keep that in mind. But I would say probably Rory or Bryson, probably the 2 biggest bombers for this week.
I say Cameron Champ is a good name, and that's a good segue, I think, for our tiers today. What we did, so appropriately named athletes, perfectly named athletes for their particular sport. So let me know in chat as an example. This wasn't officially on the board, but I'll give you an example. Again, perfectly named athletes considering what they do, their job, their occupation. Like Tim Duncan. Come on, that's a pretty. And he didn't even dunk, by the way. That wasn't really he was the big fundamental. he did all the skills, outside of not the flashy stuff. Cecil Fielder, I know he DH sometimes, but these are others receiving votes. But Kyle, just for the record, I had a list. Speaking of golf, Tiger Woods.
Yeah,
Wood is a club.
There's a golfer named Adam Schenk. Maybe that would be inappropriately.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of him, but he might have made the list.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I do not want Adam Schenk. Has he ever won a tournament before? I don't know if he's ever won a tournament, but I do not want that guy.
I think he's got a couple of lower end PGA wins.
Champ Kind being mentioned in chat, and I believe that was from Ron Burgundy. Champ Kind was the sports guy, wasn't Champ Kind the name of the sports guy? I believe that was the an anchor man, if I'm not mistaken. But speaking of, we do actually have not Shank, but somebody of that sort as far as kickers in our on our official board. I want to see if anybody else. Andrew Luck. I mean, it's not really does that fit?
Maybe if it was Andrew Retire Luck.
I'm trying to think like horseshoes. If he played like horseshoes, I'm just trying to think of different sport. Oh, another one.
He was on the Colts, so horseshoe Luck.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go. We're making it work. This one almost made the board. I don't know if you remember Grant Balfour. The pitcher for the Athletics
for the Rays. Yeah.
Australian. He would curse and yell when he was out there. He was very animated. And Balfour is the guy's last name. Balfour, close enough. Yeah, Bob Walk, another pitcher. You probably don't want to be named Bob Walk when you're a pitcher, but that's what we're talking about here. But okay, let's go ahead and unleash the official board. I don't think there's a debate on this one, and I'll tell you what inspired it. Game 5 tonight, Toronto taking on my Florida Panthers. This dude, I don't actually know if he's starting. He's the backup goalie, and the original goalie was concussed. But Joseph Wall, Wall is an incredible name for a goaltender. Come on, Joseph Wall. I do not want to face Joseph Wall, but you can't top. Usain Bolt is a sprinter. That's not real. This is like in a comic book. That's made up, right? No, that's for real. So Usain Bolt is perfectly named for his occupation. Joseph Wall. You gave Jackson Dart. Do you have a scouting report? Are you a fan? Do you have thoughts? Do you watch college football or no thoughts at all? I have no thoughts.
I actually was pretty high on Jack Star. I got some flack from my friends when I said I thought he'd be a good pick for a team to take later in the draft, and then he went flying up the draft board. Ended up going late in the first round. So I think he's a good high upside risk reward type prospect.
Homer Bailey. Homer being as a pitcher is not a good name. There was also a hitter named Homer Bush. I don't think was a homer hitter for Toronto. For maybe TJ remembers Homer Bush back in the day. I don't know how long he stuck around, but I think he was more of a singles hitter, if I'm not mistaken. And then for real, honestly, how is your name Chris Blewett and you're a kicker? It's you just can't miss any kicks. You're just not allowed to. Then all of a sudden you're a meme for the rest of your life. Is he still in the league? I'm not sure. I think he kicked at Ohio State.
I looked him up and I saw him. I saw him kicking in the UFL.
Okay, he was in the NFL.
Looks like he's playing for the Houston Roughnecks of the UFL. Which check out our UFL projections. They'll
there
be
you
tomorrow.
Go. Have you played in the UFL? I've not played in the UFL. I've not. I can't name one player in the league. But
I've been doing a few lineups over the last couple weeks because I'm on the UFL projections. So got to stay in tune there.
DeAndre Swift getting thrown out there in chat. That works. Yeah, for sure. What else was on my? Yeah, I had Zach Short, who was a shortstop.
Yeah,
but and Cameron Dicker. Speaking of, I mean, not exactly, but it rhymes, so I guess. But Chris Blewett. He was on Chicago and Washington, and he's on Pittsburgh. That's where he's on, the Pittsburgh Panthers for college. But all right. That is our board. Let's throw some teams in some tiers. We have most of the lineups out. No Athletics just yet. No Dodgers. No Angels. No Padres. That's all late. 9:40 and beyond. Why is Cincinnati starting tonight at? Their start time is 7:14. Did you see it? 7:15 to 7:13 though. That's way too early. 7. I got it. 7:14. Why 7:14? What's happening in Cincinnati? Is that their standard time?
Maybe because it's the 14th.
Okay, so tomorrow it's gonna. We'll see. Yeah. At some point, that's gotta. Okay, maybe. So let me know in chat if you know. That could be it. I couldn't tell you. All right. Blaze Alexander, Lake Speed is a NASCAR driver. I've not heard of Lake Speed, but that's a good name too. All right. Let's I don't know what's going on as far as honoring Pete Rose. Oh, they're honoring Pete Rose tonight for Cincinnati. That's what's going on. Okay. All right. Oh, so Pete Rose. They just now he's eligible to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What? Okay. I guess they haven't been able to mention his name basically since. I'm not sure, but I know recently I saw that he's no longer banned.
Yeah.
Well, do you think they leave out the parts why he was banned? Let's gloss over that. And don't Google don't get into the Google on him on some things. But okay, maybe that's what's happening there in Cincinnati. All right. First game we're going to talk about is the Rays, the Blue Jays. Rays went off last night in Toronto, locked in for 9 against Chris Bassett, one of the better pitchers on the bump, and Pepio, one of the more skilled pitchers as well. We talked about him being, not starting off so hot, especially from a power perspective. No Yandy Diaz tonight for Tampa. I guess he still is dealing with those visa issues. He cannot get into Toronto. TJ's keeping him out. Where do you have the Rays and the Blue Jays?
Yeah, I'm putting both these teams in the Homer Bailey tier. Again, I think it's two matchups that I don't love for them against pitchers that I either, I think Bassett's fine. Obviously, he got roughed up a little bit last game. He's actually gotten roughed up a little bit over his last few starts, but still a guy that I think is, a good pitcher and also a good real life pitcher that's tough to beat from a power perspective. If I were to be interested here, it'd be some of these lefties. He is, in my opinion, much better against righties than lefties. And when you look at the numbers, kind of aligns there. And then, Pepio, I mentioned I don't mind using him in a few lineups, so I'll put both of these teams in the Homer Bailey tier.
All right, both teams in the 4 tier. They're saying that Rose had 714 hits. That is incorrect. He had over 4,000 hits. So I don't know how he would compute that to time. I don't know. I'm not really
4,000 divided by his number is 714. That's the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I guess there's probably a pregame ceremony. I'm not sure, but I'll be tuning in. Actually, no, I'll be watching the Panthers. Peter said he was not counting the hits at night, so that was his hits during the day. That's an interesting math. All right, fair enough. Pittsburgh taking on the Mets. No Pittsburgh just yet, despite an hour and a half until that game starts. Unless did that lineup just come out? It did not. By the way, for your season-long stuff, your dynasty stuff, Ben Joyce is out for the season. Turns out, I guess, throwing 103 miles per hour. Yeah, that's a bummer for him. He's got a shoulder. They're shutting him down there for the Angels. Was it 103? He was at like 102, 103 last year or something like that. That dude was just ridiculous. So no Pittsburgh just yet. I imagine they're kind of working out O'Neal Cruz, and maybe at some point they'll just make a call and throw him on the IL because it's been 3 days, I think, where he hasn't played. All right. Pirates, Mets, Holmes, Falter. What do you got?
All right. Pirates going in the Chris Blewett category. I don't think that they're quite as permanently down there as the White Sox, but they're pretty close. It's a pretty brutal lineup there. So I like them in the bottom tier. And then for the Mets, obviously this is a team who's had tons of upside throughout the course of the year, a little bit up and down at times, but I do like them in the Joseph Wall tier here.
All right. TJ, I'm not sure if you missed the first game. Tampa and Toronto, they're both in the Homer Bailey tier. What's up, TJ?
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I wasn't sure if you're having issues like with you said this takes up a lot of power on your computer or something, so I'm not sure if you're having tech issues, but just want to make sure that we got that correct. Yeah, Pittsburgh and Blewett. Where did you throw the Mets, Kyle, or did you not throw them anywhere just yet?
Mets are going to be in the Joseph Wall tier. Like them a little bit tonight.
Yeah, they have a team total above 5. We're not afraid of falter. They have pretty clear and obvious good players. Vientos bumped up to the 2-hole here against the lefty. What's his name is not starting the out. No Mo. Oh, no Mo's in the 4-hole. Okay, they just kind of shuffled some things up. All right. Yeah, Lindor, Vientos, Alonso, Nemo, Marte. Man, I wish their lineup was better after that. Marte stinks now. Like, why? I guess, they got to do better than that. Are they missing somebody? I'm staring at the lineup, and I feel like they're missing somebody.
They have McNeil out. Alvarez is out. Obviously, Juan Soto not playing today either.
That's what it is. Okay, that's what I'm staring at. Okay.
Oh, be careful. Steve's gonna come back from leave and be like, "Hey, don't start with the Juan Soto slander."
No, he slanders himself. Like, oh, he's overpaid. He says he's overpaid, like he's the one writing the checks. Like, what is he upset about?
Well, he does pay for parking, as he alluded to, and that is basically writing the check.
Take the train, I think was the counterpoint. So that I knew something was. I'm staring at that lineup. I'm like, something looks weird. Something was different about it. The Reds taking on the White Sox. Davis Martin, 2 last names. Nick Lodolo, a good hitter's ballpark, especially for fly balls. By the way, 14 was Rose's number. That's the mystery. That's what it is. Duh. Pete Rose was 714. That's what's going on there. That's why they're playing, starting the game at 714. Cincinnati does have a team total just above 5 against Martin, and that White Sox bullpen we're not necessarily afraid of. Spidey Bob number 2 just dropped, by the way. That means we're at 75 likes. I like the Jonathan Aranda call. TJ, not a homer, picking on his team. Chris Bassett, vulnerable to lefty power, and we saw Aranda get loose last time. He's got a lot of power versus righties. I like him a good bit. I think it's a pretty good number too. So I'm in agreement. Not that you need me to give my seal of approval. Reds, White Sox, what do you got?
Yeah, for the White Sox, let's just put them in the bottom tier per usual. Again, they'll beat it. Yep, that's where they live. They pay rent there, and they pay. That's some high quality real estate there. And then for the Reds, we're gonna put them. I do like the matchup here against Davis Martin again. I think we talked about. I think it might have been Cannon last time, but I do kind of think Martin is fairly similar. Not a high strikeout guy, which I think is good for some of these guys that do struggle with strikeouts. So they're going to be in the Joseph Wall, actually Jackson Dart category. Actually, you know what? Sorry, TJ, we're going to go Joseph Wall. Keeping you on your toes.
Yeah. I was going to say, TJ, I don't think he likes Toronto. I don't think that's his team. I know it's the Blue Jays, but of course, I would imagine TJ, if he's not he doesn't have a hockey team, so he's not a real Canadian. But if he did, I'm pretty sure it's not
Toronto. I have a hockey team.
Who's your hockey team? Edmonton?
Oilers, yeah.
Yeah, he probably likes the Saskatchewan.
Saskatoon Blades, baby. Our WHL.
Not the Fighting Artichokes?
No, I think there's actually like 5 WHL teams in Saskatchewan. Even though we don't have many big cities, we still can fill some hockey rinks.
Yeah,
that is pretty. Yeah, I mean, you guys obviously that they're. I watched the series last year. I know it was the Stanley Cup, but when the Panthers took on Edmonton, Edmonton's you guys got an elite crowd, some studs as well. Edmonton's still alive, right?
If we had, there's only 300,000 people that live here, but I feel like we could get pretty close to feel like if we had a stadium big enough for a hockey team, I feel like we'd actually be able to house one here because there'd be enough support for it.
Well, I mean, they had that one fan last year that I'm sure would draw quite the crowd.
Who are you alluding to?
Connor McDavid, obviously.
I was thinking that Edmonton kind of feels like they're probably the smallest market in all hockey. They might be. I feel like they're sort of like the Packers of the NHL. But what's a smaller market than 300,000?
Is Calgary?
No, I'm talking about Saskatoon. If Saskatoon were to ever get a team, Edmonton's well over 1 million.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, I know. I was saying like where I live in Saskatchewan, even though there's only 300,000 people, I think we could actually probably still support a team. But Edmonton's well over 1 million.
You should have got the Utah Mammoth,
right?
Yeah, maybe Columbus is one of the smaller ones. I mean, technically, the Florida Panthers, for me, they're right down the road. They're in Sunrise, Florida. It's Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, people think it's Fort Lauderdale. It wasn't Miami about 10, 15 years ago or so. But Phoenix couldn't support the Coyotes. That's a pretty big city, but I guess they were also horrendous, which did not help. Okay, let's move along. What did we get? What lineup just dropped here? Was that San Diego just came out? Anything of note for San Diego? We got the Athletics as well. Tatis, Arise, Machado, Merrill, Bogart, Sheets, Cronenworth, Lockridge, Maldonado doing the catching. For the Athletics, we have Wilson, Soderstrom, Rooker, Langoliers, Butler, Andujar, Blade, Urias, and Kurtz. So I think that is the same. I think it's the same lineup that they had yesterday and what we anticipated. Okay, Nats and Atlanta, 9 total. Atlanta over a 5 total against Mitchell Parker, one of the better hitting environments on the board. Eli White is leading off today versus the lefty, which is of note. Verdugo not in the lineup there. We talked about Albie's the other day. Albie's better against left-handers historically, not great against righties. Elder, I don't think there's anybody we're necessarily afraid of. So, sure, James Wood, awesome power, Abrams, speed power combination. Another lineup that kind of falls off in the back end. Where do you have the Nationals and the Braves?
Yeah, I think the Braves have a couple sneaky good match, or obviously they have a good lineup. The matchup is not ideal. I don't think it's one that they can't get across here. Mitchell Parker's been pretty good this year. Dating back to last year, obviously was much worse against righties and lefties, as usually lefties are. So I'll go ahead and throw the Braves in the Jackson Dart category, and then we'll put the Nationals. I like a couple of one-offs here for the Nationals, like James Wood a little bit. Don't mind Alex Call and Nathaniel Lowe, but probably not a team I'm looking to full stack, so they'll be in the Homer Bailey tier.
All right. Did I see in the chat that they're
what was the Braves, sorry?
Jackson Dart.
Okay, so Jackson Dart finally gets filled, meaning Usain Bolt is all by his lonesome. We'll see if he gets him filled soon enough. Is the WNBA expanding? Did I miss that story? It would make perfect sense. They seem to be getting more attention, but is that a new expansion team coming that I missed? TJ, I see you talking about here in chat.
I believe they have two
this season. This season,
so.
There's new teams.
I
didn't know.
I think they have a Golden State team.
They're at 10, I think. I feel like they were at 10. They're going to be to 12. Is that where we're going?
I could be wrong. I definitely should know this, so hopefully
Toronto Tempo will be 2026. Captain America Bleeds is saying Cleveland Rockers coming in 2028.
But there's a Golden State team this year, right?
Do we like Tempo? Who voted on that? Tempo?
I'm always good with alliteration. I'm not going to complain with some fun alliteration.
Yeah, I don't know if I like it. It's not great.
Yeah, so
too bad Toronto Pistons is taken. What do you got, Kyle?
There was 12 teams last year. This year, they do have a new team, the Golden State Valkyries. So I was right. I'm
Valkyrie
there. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
And Valkyries is maybe it's just the way that ESPN wrote this, but they are apparently all caps. But I think it might just be ESPN's rating. They got Monique Billings. She was good last year.
Okay. Are you doing content for WNBA? I know you're doing content for all sorts of sports.
I think I'll probably help out. I'll probably help out with projections a little bit for WNBA. Last year, I got into the props a pretty good amount because I think it's a pretty soft market compared to other sports. So that was kind of cool, and our projections are pretty good here. So yeah, I'm sure I'll be in the props tree. I think that tips off on Friday, so right around the corner.
Yeah, are they expanding the season? I feel like the season's really short. And because they were losing money, so maybe they wanted to keep the season short. But I'm guessing they're starting to make money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, I think obviously they're growing quite a bit, but I think they try to plan it around fit in as much time they can as when the NBA is not going on as possible, which is difficult because the NBA goes till June and then it's starting back up again in October. So they try to do it pretty quick. Yeah.
Okay, we have the Marlins taking on the Cubs, 7.5 total. Jamison Tyone, we mentioned, taking on a Marlins team, very heavy when it comes to right-handers. Actually, it's about a 50-50 split or so, but they're not good collectively. The ballpark is not suitable for hitting today. I can go ahead and pull up exactly what Weather Edge tells us. The Cubs still have a 4.5 team total, which, again, on another day, on a neutral site, I think it'll be at least in the 5s. Swanson, by the way, leading off against the lefty PCA down to the 5 hole. He's been great, but they're bumping the lefty down to the 5 spot. Weather Edge is telling us, pretty big sample, 106 games, 60s attempt, 6 mile per hour wind coming from dead center, typically 6 mile per hour, whatever, whoop-de-doo, but it is enhanced in Chicago. 26% downgrade in homers, 12% downgrade in runs. Doesn't mean you can't roster him, obviously. Ryan Weathers, we're not afraid of him. That bullpen, of course, for the Marlins is sketch as well. Marlins, Cubs, what do you got?
Yeah, Cubs are going to be in the Homer Bailey tier. I think on a day without the tough conditions, they'd probably be in the Jackson Dart category. But today, Homer Bailey tier. Again, I also think that from a stacking perspective, the fact that two of the guys that you're most wanting to stack are Kyle Tucker and PCA. Obviously, Tucker is just fine against lefties. PCA much worse against lefties, but Ryan Weathers was actually pretty decent against lefties last year. It was a pretty small sample. And again, not that we would be afraid of it, but I think that also kind of takes away from some of the appeal for the Cubs. And then obviously the weather. And then Miami, they suck.
You did a deep dive. That's the analysis on the Marlins.
I actually, to be fair, I actually like a couple of these young bats like Stowers and Nervous. Don't mind either of those guys. Sanchez, I've always kind of liked for DFS purposes. Obviously, big boomer bust guy. But today, wind blowing in, I was probably a little bit too harsh on them there. But also from a stacking perspective, like even if the conditions were fine, it's probably at best like a mini stack just to save some money. So yeah, I think with the wind blowing in, we'll go with the Chris Blewett category.
Yeah, they got some power, right? You mentioned Stowers strike out a lot, but if he hits it, he can go far. Same with Norby. Augustin Ramirez, small sample, but like big time prospect. He could be something. We'll see. I'm with you. I like to make fun of the Marlins. I used to be a big fan of them, and we got divorced. But they do have potentially some guys that are at least worth a gander. But with these conditions, Senzatella, Patrick Corbin, it's the Rockies and the Rangers. I do want to check and see if the roof was open here. I'll check that in a second as I throw it to you. But yeah, Texas has a 5.5 total here versus Senzatella. 3 and a hook for the Rockies. Somebody asked the question, who's worse at their job? The Rockies collectively at hitting baseballs or Patrick Corbin at throwing them? What say you? Colorado and Texas.
Honestly, if I had to take a pick there, I would probably say that the Rockies are worse at their jobs. But that's not going to align with what I say for these two teams. Patrick Corbin is just not very good, but the Rockies are like generationally bad right now. But for today, I actually like the Rockies. I do think, again, we'll see Corbin get a little bit of ownership. We have him projected at 15.5. So I think that's probably a number that could, I think it'll be right around there, maybe even a little bit higher. And again, you don't necessarily need to full stack this team, right? You can pick off a couple of guys here, maybe 2 or 3 guys, and put together a pretty solid stack. And for what it's worth, for some of these individual hitters, although the team and the organization is very bad, and they are very, very bad on the road, don't get me wrong, they still have some numbers, some guys with some decent numbers here, especially against lefties. Hunter Goodman, I like as a catcher option. You can also have a salary option with Jacob Stallings. You have Brenton Doyle, who was one of the more exciting names coming into the year as like a potential breakout guy. Obviously, he got like the Bryce Harper stamp of approval in that interview in the offseason. And so he's been a guy who's been pretty bad this year, but again, a guy that I think is still a good player. Kyle Farmer has hit lefties pretty well in his career. Toglia, a guy who I bet his home run prop over preseason. It's not looking good so far, but a lot of,
what was it, like 21, 20? What was it?
I think it was 20.5. Yeah. So gonna need a big spurt here at some point. But again, he's a guy that also switch hitter and hits lefties pretty well. So I do like Colorado quite a bit. I'll put Colorado in the Jackson Dart tier. But again, I think you can definitely make them work from like a value perspective. And then Texas is going to be the first team in the Usain Bolt tier. Like them quite a bit. Senzatella, again, ground ball pitcher, so he can be annoying at times, but he's actually struggled against righties pretty much top to bottom. When you look at his numbers, giving up more power to righties, not doing as good of a job of keeping the ball on the ground, giving up more hard contact. So I do like these righties a bit more. Garcia, Langford, Josh Young. I think that'll actually give a little bit of an edge there from an ownership perspective. I think naturally people are going to go, looking to chase these lefties. Maybe not necessarily to a huge extent today because, it's guys like Smith and Peterson in the lineup. So you don't have like the big lefties, obviously no Seager. So I don't think it'll be a huge edge there, but I do prefer the righties. My 3 favorite hitters on this team tonight are Garcia, Josh Young, who's been red hot as of late, and then Wyatt Langford, who also it has been Mr. Grant Neefers, one of his favorite targets for home run props this year. And he came through a couple days ago against the Rockies. So I do like those 3 righties. So Texas top team for me today.
One of my favorite things on Twitter, and there's so many things to pick from, is the comment section under any tweet that Grant has. And I mean, you just learn how, and I don't want to be mean, but like how dumb the public can be sometimes. I don't want to be, but like it just, you only got 2 of 6 right, and they're home run calls, and you're like 3 and 4 to 1. It's like, you stink. It's like, if you were lucky enough to get 2 out of 6 right, it's a hell of a night. Like it's a go to Sizzler, you go celebrate. Shout out to you, and you could be 2 for 4 and that's worse than 2 for 6, depending on the odds. I mean, I know it's math matters, but if you read the comment section, and Grant, I talk to Grant sometimes, he will engage, and it's like I guess it's kind of fun, and at some point you got to pull back, and it's like, what am I doing?
It's fun. It's fun. It builds the brand. More engagement when you argue with them. But it is wild how many people just argue with their whole chest, having no idea about what a unit means, what odds mean, and just think if you bet something, you make that same amount of money back. Like, it is wild how I've never really understood why people want to argue aggressively about things they don't know anything about. Like, if I am passionate about something or I am knowledgeable about something, I'll get into a heated discussion, either because it's fun or because I want to prove that I'm right or something like that. But it's wild how many people in those threads just have zero knowledge base and are just like going in there full tilt arguing.
Yeah. And it's like, if you want to have an argument or disagreement on opinions, okay, sure. But the math is the math. We're arguing about the very clear, these are the numbers. This is not up for debate. The
problem is no one can do math.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and Bobby in chat, I feel like I've heard somebody say this before. That's why there are big buildings in Vegas. Yeah, the buildings just don't build themselves. All right, 3 games to go. By the way, I did tease it, Kyle. Do you have the next 2 as far as your player prompts you're unleashing? You gave 2 earlier. I believe we've hit 100 likes. So if you want to give, have we hit 100 likes? I think we're on the threshold of 100 likes. TJ, are we there just yet or no? We not at 100? I feel like it's coming. It's any second now. Maybe
89, so we're still 11 away.
All right, not begging, not groveling, but when we hit it, Kyle unleashed 2 of us. He had 2 more picks he was talking about earlier. 3 more games to knock out before we yield to crunch time. You got Dave Potts, Cheese is Good. You have Neil Orfield and STL Cards coming in. I believe Cards will be holding that down and hosting. No Roth, but weather-wise, I believe we are clean. I'll give it a refresh. By the way, roof is closed in Texas. Royals, Astros, Colton Gordon, who kind of sort of inspired, again, a couple guys kind of inspired the name thing. Like, what an awesome name, Colton Gordon. I think that guy should be good. Of course, he went to UCF as well. I say, of course, like I learned about that 3 minutes ago before the show started. Taking on Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen's going to have the platoon the entire game because that's all the Astros do is throw out some righties with the exception of switch hitter extraordinaire Victor Caratini. Royals, Astros, what do you got?
Yeah, it is pretty interesting with the all-righty lineup because this year, and again, small sample, this year he's only faced about 200 hitters or 200 plate appearances. So, you think that fairly small sample, but this year he has struggled with the power prevention numbers more against righties, higher hard contact rate, lower ground ball rate, so and a higher ISO than compared to the lefties. So could be a spot where maybe he struggles from a splits perspective, but man, this Astros team, they just have so many guys who have, not really lived up to expectations as of late. Obviously, their lineup this year compared to last looks a lot less appealing. So for this one, I'm going to go in the Homer Bailey category. And then for the Kansas City side, I don't necessarily have like a great read on Gordon. I don't think he's going to be this incredible pitcher. I don't think he's going to be a complete gas can, just based on looking at some of his numbers in the minors. But this Royals lineup, I think, is pretty unique because they don't necessarily need to do a ton of damage from a power perspective in order to get there from a stacking perspective. We give so many guys on this team who can get on base, steal a bag, India, Witt, Massey. So I think it's not a terrible team to stack here, but not necessarily what I'm overly excited to. So I'll also put them in the Homer Bailey category. It looks like TJ read my mind there.
There you go. TJ's on top of it. 2 more games to go. Angels, Padres. We talked about Randy Vasquez, more walks than Ks so far this season, taking an Angels team. Well, no lineup just yet, but we are expecting, again, for whatever reason on DK, Ward and Soler seem to be underpriced. Neto is priced where he should be, but he's been really good so far this season. Sean Well, to me, is very much like Luis Ariz, just never play. I don't like playing him as an a la carte piece. Never. I don't like saying never, but, never. And I guess maybe begrudgingly as far as the stack, just not a lot of power there on the first base spot, but I guess you can do it. I guess if you're stacking, I suppose, but I don't love it. Angels, Padres do have a team total above 5 because Kyle Hendricks We were talking golf earlier. He's on the back 9. He might be on the hole 17th, maybe the 18th hole. It's about it for Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, I mean, Hendricks, like a lot of his numbers don't look all that good. He's definitely not an overpowering pitcher by any means, but I mean, he's had a couple starts that he just gets through and survives and doesn't really get too beat up. Like you look at the last start against the Orioles, pretty solid outing. Throw it back a couple of weeks ago to that start against the Tigers, who have been a top 5 to 7 offense in baseball. Gave up 1 run. So again, not an overpowering guy, but he's survived. But again, he's also just not a guy who has a lot of good numbers to back up these production numbers that he's had. So I do like the Padres quite a bit, put them in the Joseph Wall tier. Again, another guy who this season in particular has had some reverse split stuff. Again, small sample, so I'm not dying to say that that's something that's going to continue. But hey, you have Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado. I'm totally fine rostering those guys against a righty. Jackson Merrill back in the middle of the lineup. Like him quite a bit. So I do like this Padres team as well. They'll go in the Joseph Wall tier. And then for the Angels, again, not really a lineup that I'm in love with. I think that's kind of the reason why Vasquez is in play. But they do have some power bats here. They're going to go in the Jackson Dart category. You could argue that they should be in the Joseph Wall category because they have a little bit of added leverage with some Randy Vasquez potential to be a little bit more popular. But, again, they have a 4 implied team total. So I think this middle tier here for the Angels is where they belong.
TJ, somehow the Padres got
Joseph Wall. Yeah.
Yeah. Padres are getting the stench of the Marlins, the Pirates, and the White Sox.
They deserve to be there, in my opinion, because there's literally only 3 players on that team I want to play because they're all still priced like they're in Coors. They didn't drop the prices.
Tatis, Machado, and Merrill
for $4,500 outside of Coors.
Didn't he homer at least once? I mean, I'm not playing results.
Coors,
yeah. I get your point. Pittsburgh, by the way, did come out with a lineup, and Cruz is not playing baseball today. Frazier, McCutchen, Reynolds, Bart, Canaro, IKF, Gorski, Bay, and Triolo. We did get the Dodgers. We got everything but the Angels. Dodgers came out. No rushing. Maybe he plays tomorrow. No rushing. It's Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, Pajes, Conforto. You got a really cheap Outman who's been doing just that. And Kim is in the 9-hole. We'll summarize the board in a second. Also, get a few homer calls in the holster as well. We'll try to see if we can get those for the people after we talk about the Athletics and the Dodgers. It's still so funny. Like there's just no city name on Athletics. Like that's how much they hate Sacramento. They couldn't even embrace Sacramento for a couple of years. Yamamoto taking on Gunnar Hoglund, who's been pretty good. They've been all right so far, but this is the Dodgers. Dodgers have a 5.5 total. Just ran down their lineup. The front end is really, really good. We saw the A's explode last night, so much so we got Miguel Rojas was throwing baseballs there in the 9th, served up a couple homers, won the slate. I did have the A's, but I did not have Jacob Wilson in my stack, so shame on me. Did write him up in the surveys as like my sneaky stack, so maybe one person read that and said, oh, okay, maybe in tournaments. Wasn't me, though. Athletics, Dodgers, where are we throwing them on the board?
Yeah, Dodgers are going to be in the Usain Bolt tier. Like them quite a bit here. Obviously, you're getting a matchup against a pretty inexperienced pitcher, top to bottom, pretty solid lineup. Even when you consider the guys at the end of the lineup here, sure, not as elite as some of the names up top, but then you get some salary relief options like $2K for James Outman, who, in my opinion, this price is probably just down because he wasn't playing at the beginning of the year. I think it was his first or second game of the season where he hit a home run. That is his only hit on the year, I believe. But he was a guy who wasn't too bad last year. Does have some power, speed, combo, which I do kind of like for these value guys, to where you're not necessarily chasing one out, right? Where you need a guy to hit some power. But if they get on base for single, he can cash in on some stolen base opportunity as well. And then you have Hae-Sung Kim, who for a while when I was doing some preseason research, I was like, when did they get this guy from the Padres? And that turns out it's a different guy.
When did he start hitting left-handed?
Exactly.
Yeah. Same thought.
And that threw me back to the COVID KBO days when I'm just like trying to decipher who is actually who. in these lineups. But again, bottom of the order, 2,300 I believe is the price on DraftKings as a value option. Don't mind him there. Then Max Muncy again hasn't necessarily been the Max Muncy that we were accustomed to over the a few years back, but 3-3 on DraftKings. I think that's a solid price tag there for him. So Dodgers is going to be one of the top teams of the night for me.
Spidey Bomb number 3 just dropped. LA De La Cruz. It's funny, fun with small sample sizes. I'm looking at Outman this season, and obviously he's not had a lot of at bats. He's got a 40% barrel rate, but he's not hitting the ball. He's got 2 barrels, 5 batted balls, but 40% barrel rate. Oh my god, that's amazing. Yeah. What is his K rate though? You want to know what his K rate is for the season? You want to guess what it is the entire season? He's got. Go ahead. You throw out a number.
I think I saw it. So I think it's like 50% or something like that, right?
He's got 17 plate appearances and 58.8% as far as strikeouts. So, but
that explains the barrel rate.
And he was striking out a lot in the minors too. I think he had like a 25 or 30%. He had 30% plus strikeout rate in the minors. He did have 25 homers in the majors, not last year, but the year before, I believe.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, he was a big prospect. That's the reason why he's still sticking around. And he's one of those guys that has that sweet swing when he hits it. When you see it, it's like, oh, okay, now I see it. And that lefty swing, that lefty swing is.
Yeah.
Tends to be sweeter for whatever reason. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's recap the board.
Oh, sorry. I think I have to do the A's. Did I do the A's?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you? The A's are in Homer Bailey. I don't know if that's correct or not. Was TJ being ambitious?
Yeah, that is probably where I was sort of debating putting them in the Jackson Dart category just in case people wanted like a super leverage stack, because this is it, right? Yamamoto is going to be probably 50% owned in some contest. And sure, this A's team is going to be one that we're picking on tonight, but not over the course of the year, right? This is a team with a lot of power, a lot of pop in the lineup. So I think you can make a case for them being in the Jackson Dart category just for leverage, but we'll leave them in the Homer Bailey tier for now.
All right, let's recap the board. Again, if you're joining us late, you're wondering what these names are. What we did was athletes that are appropriately named, perfectly named athletes when you consider their occupation. Number 1, Usain Bolt. That's a pretty obvious one. Joseph Wall, goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jackson Dart, of course, the pitcher. The quarterback drafted by the Giants. Homer Bailey, a pitcher that tried to not give up homers. And then there's Chris Blewett, the kicker, who no longer is in the NFL, but once was. He used to play for Pittsburgh for college and toiled around some NFL stuff. And I believe you said he's in the UFL now, or the USFL or the UFL. UFL. Yeah. That's what they're calling it these days. Yeah. And Usain Bolt, we got 2 teams, Dodgers, Texas. That's the top tier. Hanging out with Joseph Wall. It is the Mets, the Reds, San Diego. Right in the middle, we got Dart hanging out with the Rockies, who I don't know. The Rockies jumped up that high the entire season. I'm not sure. The Angels and the Braves. Homer Bailey, really, really popular. Rays, Blue Jays, Washington, Cubs, Kansas City, Houston, and the Athletics. And then, like we said, they basically, there's a residency here for the White Sox down here, and Chris Blewett's in the 5 category. That's Pittsburgh, the White Sox, and the Marlins. Let's give the people some homers. Who's going yard?
Yeah, I'm going to start. You mentioned the Rockies working their way up. I'm going to go to a Colorado Rocky. I'm going to Hunter Goodman. He's one of the few guys who have shown some life in this Rockies lineup. Obviously, he was a guy who came on late last year, had some pop. This year, so far against lefties, 302 ISO, 434 WOBA. Again, very small sample there against lefties, but he is a guy who definitely does have some pop. Sure, he's not in Coors tonight, but he does get to see Patrick Corbin across from him, so I like that for him. Also going to that Tampa and Toronto game for a home run call, but I'm going to look at Brandon Lau. Again, this season struggling compared to last year. Got off to a fairly slow start, or got up to a decent start and then slowed down quite a bit. And obviously it has been a rough stretch since kind of that middle of April mark. But again, I do think if he's going to have a chance to put up some power, Bassett has struggled against lefties a little bit this year, and those numbers do trend back to last year as well. So I like Brandon Lau tonight. Wyatt Langford is going to be another one for me. Actually, you know what? Adolis Garcia will be my 3rd home run call. I like both of them. Spoiler alert, but I'm going to go with Adolis Garcia to go long here. Another guy that I bet on for a preseason over on his home run prop that needs to get going if that's going to cash. So I like him to go yard tonight against Senzatela. So that is 3 names, I believe. I'll give away one more. Who was the guy I had in mind here? Fernando Tatis was it a walk-off last night? Yeah, that was an electric walk-off there. I like him to go yard again here against Kyle Hendricks. Again, Tatis is a guy who I really like to target when he's not seeing a high strikeout rate guy, which Kyle Hendricks is definitely not going to be over dominant in terms of a strikeout rate. So I like Fernando Tatis to go yard tonight as well.
We had an unprecedented 5 walk-offs last night, and I'm not sure we saw that. That doesn't really happen very often. 5 walk-offs, 1 for your Tigers. So we mentioned Javi Baez. Shout out to him. Was not in the main slate, but it was still pretty cool to see that. Mentioned De La Cruz taking on. We were talking about picking on Kyle Hendricks. Going to bring Cards on here in a second. I'm pretty sure. I feel like Cards always mentions this for whatever reason, and he knows this. Hendricks is like amazing against the Cardinals and terrible against everybody else. Maybe he'll confirm that for us, amongst other things. Neil as well coming in, as well as Dave Potts. Cheese is good. Let's go ahead and segue right to Crunch Time. Was I making that up, Cards, or is that correct? Is that something you say? I feel like that's something I've heard. For whatever reason, he's got the Cards number. You are on mute, Cards. And still on mute. Oh. Dave, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Yeah, he'll be with us momentarily. Hey, Kyle, it's been a long time since I've seen you.
I know. How are you doing? It's quite the star-studded
briefly
crunch
run
time
into
tonight.
you. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, maybe it's just me and Neil talking to ourselves. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if TJ can jump in and host Crunch Time if necessary, but we'll see. I guess we're going to get Cards here in just a second.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Cards?
Well, I don't know why it does that. Sometimes when we do these dual shows, my mic decides it does. I wasn't muted or anything. It just wasn't working. So in any case, I did, in a pinch, find those numbers that you mentioned, Dean, because I always have them at the ready. Kyle Hendricks has pitched 167 career innings against the Cardinals with an ERA of 2.47. He has started 25 games against them and has 3 losses. So I don't know what it is about that guy, but he's 14-3 against the Cardinals, and it drives me insane. He beat them earlier this year too. They can't get away from him. Even when he's on the Angels, they lose to Kyle Hendricks. So yeah, it drives me crazy.
He's got the selective will to win. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what it is, but they take a terrible approach every time they face him. He has like 60 pitches in 6 innings every time. So I'm happy he's in the American League now, but everyone else just beats up on the guy.
Hey, Neil, are you going to take a victory lap tonight? Is it happening for your T-Wolves?
I think so. I'm going to be at the game. I'm going to be cheering extra loud just to make sure that it happens. Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Nice.
Do you want, if you can push a button, do you want Steph out there? You want to beat Golden State when they're the best, right? Obviously it would hurt your chances just a tick, and maybe more than a tick. But the same thing we say in New York and Boston. But as a fan of Minnesota, if you could push the lever, you could push the button, and all of a sudden Steph is healthy and good to go. Do you want him out there?
Yes, I want Ant to collect that Thanos ring. That's also, it's kind of a cop-out thing because I have very mixed feelings about it. But the easy thing to say now is yes. Like, oh yeah, Ant would have beat him anyway. Like, what incentive do I have to say no? I don't want Steph out there. So yes, I'm going to say yes, absolutely. I want Steph out there because the Wolves are going to win anyway. But inside, I'm also a little bit afraid of the Warriors with Steph. Like they were crushing us game 1, so I would be a little bit scared that we would just been losing 5 or something.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. Both these contests, also with Boston, with Tatum basically being done for possibly next year as well, sort of taints the series. But that's just what it is. Maybe the season's too long. Maybe money, but maybe the season's too long. Probably shouldn't be playing 82 games. Kyle, anything else before we step aside and get out of here and make way for Crunch Time? I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I think I'm all set. It was a good show.
All right, Kyle. Good luck tonight. Do hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on notifications. Do not go anywhere. You got 50 minutes plus talking MLB DFS and cards. Take it away. You are doing the hosting. I've just nominated you. If you didn't figure that out.
That's fine. That was the bullpen. That was the plan. So all good. Thanks, Dean, and thanks, Kyle. Hope you all have a good night. And welcome to Crunch Time, everybody. I am raw today, I guess. Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84, playing the weatherman role. We'll see if I can do that amicably throughout the show. But I also believe that this is my first time co-hosting with Neil. So Neil, hi, I'm Justin. Nice to meet you on air.
Nice to meet you as well. Yeah, I was ready to come in here and say this is, I feel like 2 weeks ago, I think I did my first show with Potts and I said the same thing. Like, it's so cool being at RotoGrinders now. It's like every single show I come on, I'm doing a show with an OG who I've never done a show with before. Very fun for me. So yeah, happy to be on a show with both of you now. Very exciting.
Awesome. Should be a great show tonight as well. Interesting baseball slates. And of course, we have the usual Cheese is Good, Mr. Dave Potts. Cheese, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's a weird slate. I don't know. I'm mostly just going to let Neil talk about it, and then I'll nod or whatever.
So the good news is, right, that we should have some good pitchers coming around at some point in the next few days, because they certainly aren't pitching tonight for the most part. But hopefully they save those for the weekend. Makes it a little more fun to write when we got some aces on the weekend. Make Cheese.
I almost called you in this morning. I was like, I can take the day off.
Yeah, it's not a pretty one from a pitching perspective. Would imagine we'll see some runs on the board tonight in some of these games. Pretty good team totals across the board, so might get some good offenses at lower ownership tonight as well. Do need to start with the weather, even though I am not nearly as qualified as Roth to talk about it, but nothing that looks too extreme. Some mixes of green, yellow, and yellow greens, which don't seem to be super impactful outside of maybe a potential late start, or if one shower happens to go in the wrong direction over a ballpark somewhere, we could get a brief delay, but doesn't seem like it's nearly as bad as some of the previous slates we've seen yesterday, namely, and last weekend. So Neil, anything you're doing as far as weather goes, or any general notes about the slate from you before we dive in?
Yeah, I am also not as qualified as Roth to speak about the weather, but I am qualified to just read what Roth has here. And I basically just look at the colors, and based on the colors, no, I think I'm just going to let it fly.
Yeah, you don't even have to read. You just look at colors.
That's all I do. I actually can't read, but I can see colors.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I understand. My son's colorblind, but he can read, so we'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
Does anybody actually read the text? I'm curious. I mean, could he just, put some curse words in
every
there?
Once in a while he says something pretty funny in there, so I always read it just to make sure.
Okay, cursory read to make sure there's no hidden gems in there. But it doesn't seem like we've got anything that's a washout tonight. So seems like it's all systems go, and a little bit of a shorter slate as usual on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We get some day games, so there were a handful of games earlier, a couple double headers today, and the second game of those contests is not on any of the slates, but 9 games available for us. And Cheese, any general thoughts from you, or you just want to dive into pitching? I know you're anxious to talk about it.
Yeah, so much. I mean, basically, no, like the overview is pretty much all the offense looks fantastic, and I don't think there's any correct answer on the offensive side. Like, you play all of them. But really, salary comes into play in a lot of different ways. Like, I don't actually think Yamamoto is the chalk. Like, maybe he's the highest owned pitcher. I think he'll be third, honestly, at least on DK. But like, it's really not easy because of how many high end bats there are to play him, unless you're just doing one of the nonsense pitchers at, the 5K range. So I think Clay Holmes is the chalk on both sites. And he's my SP1 with salary considered. Of course, I'd play Yamamoto ahead of him if they're the same price, but they are not nearly the same price. I think Holmes is the play. I think on DraftKings, I think Lodolo is the second most popular pitcher, followed by Yamamoto. I think those three will be pretty close, which is kind of what we're showing. I'm playing mostly Holmes and Lodolo. And really, just when you start building lineups, the things you can do with those lineups that you can't do with Yamamoto make me think that's more the chalk. And we will see plenty of Chris Bassett and some Tyone and even some Patrick Corbin up there, but it's just not okay with me that Patrick Corbin is $8,300 and that Jameson Tyone is $8,500. Like, I get it with the matchup, sort of, but only sort of. I have, 20 times the Holmes and Lodolo as I do Tyone. I don't think I have a single Corbin, honestly. I might have one by accident, but I don't think so. And And the
If
stuff
I could have told you a week ago that we'd have a slate where Jamison Taillon at 8,500 and Patrick Corbin at 8,300 are combining for 49% projected ownership, you'd probably look
it's
at me
amazing. Like it's crazy. I can't even believe it. And yet it's I mean, they probably will combine for, at least 30% ownership. It's silly. Dylan Cease was that price last night. Like I get it. It's a different slate, but also I don't get it and cut it out. So I'm good with Holmes, Lodolo chalk, and Yamamoto chalk. Those are the three guys that are going to get played, and I think they're the three guys who should get played. And that's just how I feel about it. And that's really all I have to say.
No punts, no 5K.
No,
throw a dart, pray.
No, no.
Fair enough. Neil, what do you like on the mound tonight?
Yeah, exact same page. I can't really disagree with anything there. I'm looking at my exposures right now. I set my cap at 50%. I have 50% Yamamoto, 50% Holmes, 44.4% Lodolo, 27.5% Taillon, 11.7% Randy Vasquez, 8% Patrick Corbin. It's just the top three just really separate there. Taillon, 27.5%. That's not nothing. We do have a nice weather game for pitchers in Wrigley, so I guess it's not the worst spot for Taillon, but if you throw him in there, it's those four, and then nobody else above Randy Vasquez at 12%. I usually am willing to just eat the chalk at pitcher. It's much more projectable than bats, and then get different with bats. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
The other thing I didn't say, I have like 1 or 2 Ryan Pepio on DK, just for that lineup where I just couldn't manage getting up to Taillon. So just for full transparency. If you see my 1 Ryan Pepio team winning, then I told you.
You're avoiding the call out when that happens.
It's all happening now.
I have 0.6%, so I think same.
Yeah, that's about what I have. Yeah.
But that's the lineup that wins, and somebody notices that. You
right.
Got the old
happens every time. 0% of the time.
All right. So pretty narrow pool of pitchers tonight. I mean, if you look at some of the guys on the low end, they're just. And a lot of them have tough matchups too, right? Like nobody's playing Bailey Falter against the Mets or Ryan Weathers against the Cubs. Hendricks is not facing the Cardinals, so he's not in play. Senzatella in Texas, it's just crazy. You can maybe make a case for Vasquez, but his advanced splits are terrible. I actually kind of like the Angels tonight. So it's tough to go down there. And if you're living with, say, if you make a Holmes Lodolo lineup on DraftKings, you've still got over 4,000 on average per hitter. So it's doable. But Cheese's point stands that Yamamoto may not carry as high of ownership simply because they're bad pitchers. So let's move into that. Neil, I'll let you talk about stacks first before we go position by position. What teams do you like with offense tonight?
So I'm going pretty hard on Atlanta as my highest exposed stack. Actually, I want to see, can I see my highest exposed? I know that it's going to be Atlanta. Atlanta is the stack that I'm going out of my way to get. I love targeting stacks against teams where like they're already expected to put up a lot of runs, but they're also going against the Nats, who just have a really rough bullpen. ERA north of 7 on the year for the Nats bullpen. So just the upside when you're facing a team that has not a great starting pitcher and then the bullpen not great either. For me, it is Atlanta as my favorite stack. They're also not the highest owned. They're projected for the 4th most ownership of the stacks on the slate. So I'm really going all in on Atlanta. I think the Reds look pretty good today. I think I'm going to have a fair amount of Elly De La Cruz. Red stacks in general look pretty strong. It is a slate where, as we've said, like a lot of the stacks look pretty good. So I'm going to be fairly spread out. Texas looks pretty good to me, but yeah, for me, Atlanta is the stack that I'm really focusing on, and then kind of letting myself be spread out among the remaining stacks. I think San Diego sort of interesting to me. So I'd say Atlanta, Texas, San Diego, Cincinnati are probably my top stacks. Of course, the 2 of those, Texas and the Dodgers, Texas and Cincinnati are 2 of the top 3 owned stacks. Dodgers obviously look good on any slate. They look okay to me also. But Atlanta is the one that I'm really forcing in there.
All right, Cheese, what do you like for stacks tonight?
I pretty much think there's no ownership to worry about. I think we have Ellie De La Cruz projected slightly over 20%, no one else at 20% ownership. And I do think it all just gets spread out, that if you have a take, just play it and don't worry about the ownership. I can tell you that I'm uncomfortably way under on the Reds. There's so much good offense. You just can't play all of it. So I just had to pick some spots. And I do like the Braves. Like Neil said, I have a lot of Padres, a lot of Angels, a lot of Rangers, a lot of Rockies. Woohoo! And the team that I'm Mets as well. I like the Mets a lot. Again, this is why you can't play Reds. I just like too many teams. The team that I'm definitely way over the field on is the Nationals.
All right. Again, you can probably list about 12 teams here, and none of them sound crazy. Thus, the spread out ownership. San Diego's ownership is the one that surprises me the most. I mean, we've got Tatis obviously picking up some ownership, but in terms of the other guys right now on DraftKings, everybody else we have under 5% owned, which would be delightful for me. I like the Padres quite a bit.
It's crazy that. So while we're on the Padres, let me just say, this is why I don't think Yamamoto gets played. You literally cannot stack the Padres with Yamamoto unless you play a 5K pitcher. They're so expensive. I mean, you can maybe do it now that Lockridge and Maldonado are at the bottom of the lineup, but you can't play Merrill, Machado, and Tatis and play Yamamoto. So
you definitely got to.
That just goes into why I don't actually think Yamamoto is heavy chalk.
All right, so let's go ahead and dig into it position by position. We'll take your questions at the end of the show. Again, we like to see those in the RotoGrinders Discord, which I'll pop open. Don't have to be a premium subscriber to get in there. RotoGrinders.com/Discord, or follow the links from the site to get to our live stream chat channel. Drop your questions in there. We'll get to those before lock, which is at 7:07 p.m. tonight. So we've got just a little under 40 minutes. Should be able to get through the positions and have plenty of time for those questions towards the end. So hop in there and interact, and we'll go through the positions, of which there are plenty of things to like tonight. So because, it's my first time working together with Neil, I cannot in good conscience make him do catcher first. Got to give him some of the other positions to go first. So Cheese, you're stuck with catcher.
Great. Thanks, man. Really, every position is pretty good. And it's one of those slates. There's no way we're going to be able to name every viable hitter. They're pretty much all in play. I do think it's a little bit more of a catcher in the stack kind of night, just because there isn't that one super clear standout. I mean, sure, Will Smith is fine. I think I prefer Sean Murphy a little bit. I like Hunter Goodman a pretty good amount. And Augustin Ramirez is the only Marlins bat I have any of. And then for salary purposes, Higashioka is pretty useful. And I think everything else is just kind of in a stack if you need it.
All right, Neil, what do you like at catcher tonight?
Yeah, so as I'm going in on the Braves, I'm getting to a ton of Sean Murphy. I've got over 20% Sean Murphy. It is, I have two bats at catcher over 10% in double digits. Sean Murphy and Hunter Goodman. Nobody else reaches double digits for me, so just goes to show I am just getting my catchers within stacks. I've got 9% Will Smith, 6% Victor Caratini, and then nobody else. I guess a couple others at 5.8%. Higashioka, Trevino. I'm just playing the catchers in my stacks. Nobody that I'm going out of my way to get to tonight. It will be just whichever primary or secondary stack I get to. The catcher is going to come from that. I don't think I'm going to have too many catcher one-offs. But yeah, Sean Murphy would be my favorite, and Hunter Goodman a close second.
We have an epic manager meltdown going on in San Francisco right now, which is quite humorous. But
I was wondering what happened, because I've been kind of had it on the screen, and it's just nothing has happened in a long time.
Things have happened. Believe me.
Baseball plays have happened. What did he run out on the field?
Torey Lovello got tossed, and then has proceeded to eject the umpires himself.
Nice.
after
I didn't know
tossed.
he could do that. That's fantastic.
Really let him have it. They have restarted playing, but it seems like it took the game trackers and stuff a little while. So I had noticed that too, that it had paused for a while. I'm like, certainly it's not raining in San Francisco. Searched on the Twitter, and yeah, he got tossed and then tossed all 4 umpires. So they're probably searching for umpires now. That's probably what happened. All right, I digress. Neil, I will let you start on first base.
Yep. At first base, I have, again, getting to a ton of the Braves. Matt Olson is my highest exposed first baseman. Actually, I'm pretty spread out here as well, which just goes to show how strong the bats are on this slate. But yeah, Matt Olson, because I'm playing a ton of the Braves, even lefty. I just think they're going to get to that bullpen, and who knows what they're going to bring at that point. So I will include a lot of lefties in my Brave stacks. Spencer Steer, I'm getting to a good amount, 15% there. Shohei Ohtani, 13%. Jock Peterson, nice value bat there. Lefty on righty. I've got double digits there. Those are the only 4 that I have double digits at first base. I have Miguel Vargas in 9% of my lineups, Andrew Vaughn in 7%, Aranda in 6.4%, Josh Smith 5.3%, and then it's pretty flat for me at first base. Also, even Matt Olson, my highest exposed first baseman, I've got just 17%. So also another position that I'm very spread out in.
We have another Jock Peterson value night, which has failed, it seems, maybe 20 out of the 21 times it's been a thing. But Cheese, I mean, you want bats to spend up for tonight. Maybe want to get Yamamoto in there, like a $2,800 Jock Peterson helps make that work.
Yeah, there's a lot of very cheap first basemen with boom or bust. Probably go over 4, but could all hit a homer. I can't tell you as magically precisely as Neil the percentage I have with these guys. That's the problem with building by hand. To figure that out, I would get out the calculator and go line by line. It would take me about an hour. I might do it next time, but I like the exactness.
There's a browser extension from RotoGrinders that can help you with that.
I do, and but then sometimes it seems wrong. But then because then you click between, are you showing percentage of lineups or percentage of? Yeah, I can't even figure out what percentage it's showing me. I know it's showing me something, but I can't look at that while I'm on the show, or DraftKings will think I'm in a funny location and ban me. That's happened before. Anyhow,
always a good time.
One day I'll tell you my percentages exactly. But yeah, so like the Jock Peterson thing, you could throw in there Andrew Vaughn, Jake Berger, Michael Toglia. You can save money at first, Josh Bell, and one of those guys will hit a home run. One of them could hit 2 home runs, and the others will probably go over 4 with strikeouts. But I still like it because there's bats to spend up for pretty much every position. And I guess I don't like the first baseman quite as much, at least as the outfielders and shortstops. So yeah, of course, play Freeman and Ohtani. I like Alonso a lot, but I do have more punts at first than at other positions. I would also point out on FanDuel again, Guerrero's always just seems a little too cheap there.
Yeah, and probably not a whole lot of people playing Toronto in general tonight. Ownership is pretty low there too. All right, let's go ahead and move to second. Cheese, I will stick with you.
Second base also lacks like the guy you have to have. I guess I would say Albies is my favorite. But this is another position I'm punting, so I can play all the expensive shortstops and outfielders. I essentially don't have much Tampa, but Brandon Lau certainly looks a little too cheap. I'm playing a really weird amount of Kyle Farmer. Any amount of Kyle Farmer is a weird amount of Kyle Farmer, and I'm playing more than that. I like Jake Cronenworth a lot. He's kind of in that mid-tier where I don't think he'll probably get played much outside of stacks, and I actually like him fine on his own. And that's really it. It's not a very deep position.
Yeah, it doesn't look super exciting when you see the highest owned guys as Kyle Farmer and Marcus Semien in the projections. Neil, what do you like at second?
Yep, I am getting to 25% Kyle Farmer. He's 2,500 on DraftKings. Got the righty lefty with Corbin. Everything looks pretty good for Farmer. Ozzie Albies, of course, one that I'm boosting up, even though he's from the 6-hole. That's not ideal, but nice spot here against Parker, against that Nats bullpen. So getting to a lot of Albies. 14.6% Marcus Semien. He's just 3,400. Brandon, is it Low or Lau? I get the two mixed up.
Brandon is the Lau.
Brandon Lau, I've got.
Nate at first base is the Low.
Yeah, I'll never get them right. I mean, for as long as I live, I'll never get them right. Brandon Lau, I have. I guess I just did get it right. 9.4%. He's only 3,300. Looks pretty good here. Jose Altuve, and this is the split. So he's Brandon Lau is my fourth highest exposed at 9.4%. Just 5.3%. Jose Altuve is my fifth highest exposed. So I'm pretty flat here once again. But the three that really separate: Kyle Farmer, Ozzie Albies, Marcus Semien, then a little drop down to Brandon Lau, and then down to 5%, several different second basemen.
All right, we can move along from that position. We've got third base, shortstop, and outfield to go. Then we can start digging into questions. And then after that, Neil can start getting ready for the Wolves game. So how far of a trip is it to downtown?
About 20 minutes. I'm going to my friend's house before the game. His father is going to pick us up, and we're going to go out to dinner. They're going to the game together. I'm going to the game separately from them, but it's about 20 minutes generally to get down to the Target Center.
So we got time. Have told my kids for the longest time, right? So we're Ravens fans, and Cheese will needle me about this being the Cleveland guy, but as a Ravens fan living in Illinois, we don't get too many opportunities.
You should get muted talking about that. All right, keep going.
The football schedule goes from September to January, and that's during school and all that stuff. As a Ravens fan, I am not taking my family to Cleveland to see a game. A little bit too much risk there as an outsider rooting. They don't have a team anymore, so really our options. And I'm not taking them to Chicago either. Chicago's out. So our options for a road game that would be sufficient for my risk tolerance as somebody rooting for the opposing team is probably the Packers. And I do have some family members that are pretty big Packer fans. This coming year is the 1-8 year where the Ravens play in Green Bay. So I've basically promised the family we're going to go to Green Bay whenever that game happens to be. And so I've been 100 times more vested in the NFL schedule release day than I ever have been, to where I would rather not go to Green Bay in December. And it sure looks like we're probably going to be going to Green Bay in December because the game date hasn't been released yet, but based on what has been filled in, it seems likely to be an end of season game. So we'll
Whoa, that was crazy. Sorry, Cards. I took you off. It went into crazy mode. We had a
second happens when you talk about the Ravens. I mean, it was
going mute, then it was going like louder, then quieter, then louder, but then that was just a straight robot mode.
That was startling. I don't know what that was.
Why does it do that? It's like once every 2 months.
We used to have that problem like back for like what was that 6 months ago, and then it
was a long time ago. I didn't even open anything. I'm just meandering on about the Ravens. Anyways, to cut to the chase, the reason I was asking is because if I don't want to go to Green Bay in December, the Ravens also play in Minnesota in the middle of the year, and I need to know how much.
Can they stay at your house?
Yeah.
How much harassment I would get in Minnesota as an opposing fan, or do I need protection, Neil?
I think that you will likely be good. Minnesota nice is a term that is generally true. I think people are generally pretty welcoming here. I don't know that
Canadians.
We are basically Canadians.
We're neighbors.
There are a lot of like Vikings fans from all over the Midwest, and it's kind of a hit or miss thing. There are some hardcores that are not from Minnesota who are much harder core fans than I am and much more angry. But I think in general it's a pretty friendly place here from what I've heard. I don't know it's quite the level of Green Bay. From what I've heard, Green Bay's fans are just welcoming to everybody. They're you go there, they love having you in Green Bay. They're excited to have you there. But here it's like you're in a city, you never really know what you're going to get in a city. It's all kinds of people here. But yeah, would recommend. There's also a lot more to do here. It's a lot more fun in general, I think, to be in the Twin Cities than Green Bay.
And you got purple on purple. A lot of people won't even notice.
Yeah, they won't even notice. And
Yeah.
of course, obviously I'm not an obnoxious, get plastered and needle all the home fans. I'm not stupid. I'm 5'6". I know my role. So, we maybe if the Green Bay game ends up being in the middle of winter, maybe we'll kick around Minnesota instead. But in any case, we're going to be going to a game of some sort. So anyhow, after robot mode and my little story, let's go ahead and move on to third base. And Neil, I'll let you shoot this one first.
Yeah, so Austin Riley is the first one that I think that I feel really good about. I'm targeting Austin Riley, which means he's probably going to go over here, but he's in the 2-hole against Parker. I'm loving the Brave stacks. I have 30% Austin Riley, really trying to get a ton there. He's been really good against lefties. Parker's struggled against righties. So yeah, taking a lot of shots on Riley. Espinal, I have 17%. The $3,400 price tag helps. India, I have 11%. Vientos, 9%. Miguel Vargas, 9%. So I guess a few more players getting close to double digits here. And then everybody else is 6% or lower. But yeah, I'd say my biggest stand today is on Austin Riley.
All right. Cheese, what do you like at third base?
Yeah, Riley and Machado are like super hard ahead of the field, far ahead of the field. I don't know what the word is. They're very above everyone else. I like Machado better, but he's also a little more expensive, and I like Riley plenty. So yeah, Riley and Machado. Very easy to fit them on FanDuel, so I would mostly just play those two. As far as the cheap DK stuff, like Josh Young is not cheap anymore, but he's cheaper, and I do like him next. You can then do, if you need like a full punt, my preference is Tenna from Washington. You could do Clement or Barger down there as well. Someone else, Mark Vientos, is also on the cheaper side, but really Riley and Machado is this position.
All right, Cheese, I'll stick with you. Let's move to shortstop. And again, start getting your questions in the Discord if you would like to get them answered here in a few minutes.
Yeah, we have good shortstops. I guess Ellie is the chalk, and I get it, but I'm way under on Ellie. Like, again, you got to be under on somebody on this slate, or at least have less of them, and it's the Reds for me. I could go terribly wrong, but I would rather play Bobby Witt than Ellie if I'm spending all the way up, and I like CJ Abrams better than Ellie straight up, honestly, and he's a little cheaper. So Witt and Abrams are my two favorites. By all means, play Lindor and Betts as well, but that's like 5 really great shortstops, which makes it really tough to punt at this position. I mean, maybe you have a Brave stack where you need to throw Nick Allen in just to make it fit. Maybe you need Bo Bichette here and there, Swanson in your Cub stack, sure. Neto in your Angel stacks, sure. But essentially, this is a spend up outside of full stacks.
I do have just a couple of updates. The one lineup that we were waiting on when we came on the air was the Angels. That came out shortly after we started. So just in case any of you haven't refreshed the lineups page or anything like that, the only notable absence of their active roster, obviously no Mike Trout, but the only notable absence of their active roster is Logan O'Hoppe is not starting tonight. D'Arnaud is catching. So make sure you don't have O'Hoppe in any of those Angels stacks. And the Pirates and Mets have announced a late start due to rain, which that was one of the games where Roth had mentioned that there was a chance of a brief late start, but the game should be fine after that. So, all right. I think we are left with outfielder. Neil, have you done shortstop?
I have not done shortstop yet, I believe. And now I'm scared to go because I do have Ellie De La Cruz is my highest owned shortstop. He's just, he projects really well. I haven't done anything to projection. I have 30% of Ellie De La Cruz, 5,500 looks pretty good here. Got the lefty on righty split. Then I have Kyle Farmer, Bobby Witt, Xander Bogaerts, this right? Yeah, I've got 7%. I'm currently running a new crunch to get to a little bit more of the Padres, because like everything that I've said about the Braves kind of applies to the Padres. Also, they're going against the Angels, and the Angels also have a bullpen ERA north of 7. Of course, they are in San Diego, so not the best ballpark. But I'm trying to get to a little bit more of Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, all of these Padres in my lineups. Also, okay, my crunch not my crunch. We had a new my latest grind in lineup HQ just finished. So now I can, so I've got, it is still Ellie De La Cruz, Kyle Farmer, Bobby Witt, and Xander Bogaerts. So maybe the order hasn't even changed, but I am up above 10% exposure on Xander Bogaerts at this point. Then I'm nobody else above 5%. I've got 5% Mookie Betts, and then on down from there.
All right, now let's go ahead and move to outfield, and then we will get to your questions. And Neil, I will let you have the outfield crack first.
Yep. So again, the particularly like the righties on Atlanta, Marcell Ozuna, I have 27.5%. Brenton Doyle, I have 19%. Michael Harris, 16%. Jonathan India and Espinal and Tatis, I have 13.5% each. Jackson Merrill, 12%. Eli White, 12%. Kind of surprised. He's the leadoff today at 3,500. So pretty nice value there on Eli White. 11% Shohei Ohtani. Nobody else in double digits. I'm pretty. You're playing three, so I have several that are right at 10%. Austin Hayes, Wyatt Langford, Stuart Fairchild, Gavin Lux, all at 10%, and then on down from there. But yeah, at the top for me, it's Marcell Ozuna, Brenton Doyle, Micah Harris, Jonathan India, Santiago Espinal, Tatis, Jackson Merrill, Eli White.
All right, Cheese, what do you like in the outfield tonight?
I like a lot in the outfield, which is, again, why we're punting at places like first base and second base and all that. Ohtani and Tatis. That's not very creative, but I think they're fantastic, and I have a lot of both of them. I also love Langford and James Wood. Ozuna, kind of in the mid-tier. Dallas Garcia there as well. And then you got all those Rockies. I do like Beck and Doyle a pretty good bit. And then you got all those Angels, Ward and Soler. Out of those, Ward and Doyle are my favorites. And that's really the bulk of who I'm playing. There you go.
All right, so let's go ahead and dig into the questions. And pretty quiet so far, so hop into the Discord, get those questions in. So far,
that was amazing cards. You probably don't know this, but right when you said it's kind of quiet in here, your voice went down from the robot. That was amazing.
I didn't go robot mode again, did I?
No, it wasn't robot mode. It went quiet, but it's like you're being AI. Your voice is being very closely monitored. You said quiet in here, and it went down. This is fantastic.
Government's watching. I'm gonna get some of those targeted ads here in a little while for sleeping pills or something. All right. Jay Sams has a question for Cheese in single entry. Would you go Marte and Tatis or Nimmo and Machado?
I would go Marte and Tatis.
He basically has a Mets stack, if that makes a difference. The Padres are one-off plays. All right. We got a few people typing in the Discord. I've already gone robo mode once. I don't think it's going to happen again. So I am hopping into the YouTube as well, which sometimes I used to think that was the cause of the mic going haywire, but we'll see. All right. Captain America says he's taken Jackson Merrill over Ohtani. We didn't really have a ton of discussion on the Dodgers. Their team total is obviously high based on a young pitcher. Cheese, where do you stand on the Dodger bats tonight?
So I love Ohtani and Freeman. But with the salaries, like it's really hard to go Ohtani, Freeman bets or even get Smith in there. And so as a full stack, and like then those bottom of the order guys, first of all, they're not great. And then there's pinch hit risk with like Outman and Kim and those guys. So essentially, I expect the Dodgers to score a bunch of runs as always, but I don't really have that much of them outside of Ohtani.
All right, Neil, I'll throw this question to you from Razzle Dazzles. DK Cash, Would you go with Goodman and Kim or Caratini and Semien? So that's 4 punts.
Probably Caratini and Semien.
Alexander asking, who are your core bats if you were playing DK cash games? Cheese, I'm not sure if you play cash games at all, but if you were, or if you are, who would be your priorities for all those bats?
I barely have any, honestly. I would definitely prioritize getting a spend up third baseman and a spend up shortstop. I don't even have a strong take which it would be, but that's probably where you do play Ellie, and for salary, probably Riley. And I would have one of Ohtani or Tatis, and then I would be punting around the other places.
Neil, I didn't throw that Dodgers question by you, but since I know you've got all your exposures there, how much Dodgers do you got tonight?
Actually, I think I do have a fair amount. Hang on one second. Let me pull it up.
I'm not holding your head to the fire. I was just curious.
By team. Yeah, well, I was thinking I don't feel like I read off that many Dodgers, but then I looked at my stack percentage. It looked like a lot, but no, I don't actually have that much of the individual bats. I've got 10.5% Ohtani. He's the only one that I have double digits of. 8% Max Muncy, 3% Conforto, 7% Will Smith. So in general, not getting to a ton of. I actually don't have any Freddie Freeman, which is terrifying, but I think it's just a matter of I'm prioritizing spend ups on the stacks, so just not getting to. He's 6.2K. It's just a really expensive stack to get to, so I'm just getting to some of them as one-offs. But yeah, nobody hitting double digits for me except for Ohtani, and they're expected to be a pretty popular stack. And like you said, they have a high team total, so obviously you can get to the Dodgers. Probably a good idea to have more than I have, honestly. It sounds like he's about to be hit by a plane. Right?
YouTube did something to you there.
All right.
Ellie De La Cruz and Taylor Ward, or I didn't even notice I got the big blanket up on me because the air conditioning's cold down here. Ellie De La Cruz and Taylor Ward, or CJ Abrams and Anthony Santander for DK cash, Dave?
In cash, I'd go Ellie and Ward.
He's back.
I'm just sitting here. Why does it just suddenly decide to go crazy? Unfortunately, it might be time to replace the old laptop, but I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I did not unplug the mic or anything, but TJ can throw some of the questions from the YouTube on the bottom of the screen, and I can read some of those off. But if we get some more in Discord, again, hop them in there in the live stream chat channel. That doesn't seem to affect me. Sean in the YouTube is asking if Gordon at pitcher against Kansas City is in play. Cheese, I'll let you both answer.
So, I mean, what I would say is what I said in the musings. Like, I do think he is the best option below Ryan Pepio. I don't have any. If you just have to have someone at 7K, that's who I would play. Just because we don't know. Like, I think he'll probably be something like an average pitcher, and so that's fine. But I don't like the unknown of it against a pretty low strikeout team. And but in play, sure, yes.
All right, we have a question from BJ Adam in the Discord. Neil, I'll throw this one to you on DraftKings cash. Adolis Garcia or Ozuna?
Actually, that probably just comes down to projection for me when I'm playing cash. I'm debating whether I should be continuing because, like, I don't play cash for MLB. So most sports I just play the highest projected guys, but I feel like baseball is so binary that maybe there are like guys like Ellie De La Cruz are better than guys who are just like home run hitters who project similarly. So I'm kind of questioning myself on whether I should just play the top projected here. But sorry, coming back around, it's Adolis Garcia or who was the second one?
Ozuna.
So I think for me it would be Ozuna, but I'm also just really high on the Braves today. Garcia, yeah, Ozuna projects slightly better. I'm pretty into Ozuna today, so I'll go with Ozuna.
All right, just another reminder before we get back to the questions. Again, keep firing those in. We've got around 10 minutes left until lock. A reminder about RG Combo Pro. The MLB DFS annual option is $425. However, we have dropped the price of the Combo Pro product to mirror the MLB annual package. You can get more stuff for the same price. Combo Pro 6-month gives you full access to our content, tools, and projections for every sport except NASCAR, and at a cheaper price than the monthly package alone. You'd actually save about 35% by choosing 6-month instead of monthly. So sign up for MLB projections, NBA playoff content, PGA data, and more at RotoGrinders.com. All right, hop back. A couple people typing in the Discord. TJ's got the Spidey bomb scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So since you don't have to worry about your microphones going haywire as you are watching, hit that thumbs up button. I cannot do that because I don't want to risk that happening a third time in one show, but I'll go hit the thumbs up button afterwards. If you like what we're doing here at RotoGrinders, appreciate that small little gesture. Evan Carter or Eli White from Joseph. Cheese, I'll throw that one your way.
Well, that's a really close one. I slightly prefer Evan Carter. I mean, I love the idea of seeing a Braves leadoff hitter, but I feel like he's going to turn into Alex Verdugo pretty early. So I would lean Carter.
You know, it's funny. Sorry, I see somebody else asking for home run calls, and I'm just I saw that question. I was like, well, it's probably Eli White for me because I'm playing all the Braves. And then I look at my expert survey answer, and Evan Carter was my home run, my sneaky home run call of the day. So I'm like, I'm super torn on those. That's a very, very good question. I feel like Eli White has the higher floor, whereas Evan Carter has that like you're at home run.
Well, let's throw some out. You got any other home run calls? We can throw some out. We got time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with Marcell Ozuna. Seems like a pretty good bet. Austin Riley seems like a pretty good bet to me. I'll bet on those Braves. We don't have any of the ballparks that are am I wrong? Well, what ballparks do we have on here? Chicago is a win. It's a bad win game for Chicago.
So we got the Reds basically is the spot for ballpark.
Oh yeah, they're not on my screen right now. Wait, where are they?
The Reds game starts at 7:14 for some odd reason.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Not 7:10, not 7:15, 7:14. It's an NBA start time.
I mean, Ellie, I think, is a pretty good home run bet. I don't know. What do you got?
I'm going to say Pete Rose ceremony tonight in Cincinnati. That's why it's the weird time.
Okay.
Got it. Well, that's makes sense then. Cheese, you got any home run calls?
Man, I felt like we were going to get out of here without having to do that. Sure. James Wood.
Every day still.
Yeah, James Wood, Jordan Beck, and Jake Cronenworth.
All right. Achilles asking thoughts on using Vaughn at first base in DK Cash. Neil, if you had to pick one of them cheap first basemen, who you got?
I think I go with Peterson over Vaughn. I don't know. Probably not for me in cash.
All right. TJ, good for a couple more from the YouTube. Kid Kobe, 2v2 for you. Cheese, Murphy Tatis or Amaya Tucker? That's got to be
Murphy Tatis.
Maya would be your weak link in there. He is hitting 7th for the Cubs, but I don't love the Cubs at their salaries in that pitching environment, and I don't think Weathers is quite as much of a gas can as the guy.
He's silent, right?
He's still talking, but just
we can't hear you, Justin.
Lost cards again there. So the question I'll ask to you both is, what do you think about Cincinnati for single entry?
Yeah, and I was just looking up how owned they are. They are the third highest owned. 11% of the field is projected to have Cincinnati stacks, and usually the chalk kind of condenses around those top stacks. So I don't think they're going to be sneaky at all. I have no real issue with it as long as you get a little bit contrarian with the rest of your lineup.
And then next one is Yamamoto and Elko, or Lodolo and Olsen. Got to admit, I don't know what an Elko is.
Let me see.
He hit a home run the other day, I think.
Is that short for something, or somebody's last name just Elko?
No, that's his actual name. He plays for the White Sox. That's why you don't really need to know about
That's why I don't know.
What was the second combo? It was Yamamoto and Elko, or Lodolo and who?
Your guy, Matt Olson.
Oh, well, then it's obviously Lodolo, Matt Olson, 100%.
Oh, unfortunately, we are not back in gear for cards. So don't worry about the cards. There's 3 minutes left to lock. I can finish out the rest of the show. It is no problem. And hopefully we have better luck with the mic.
Goodbye, Justin.
Great work, cards.
It was fun.
Thank you for persevering through with us. DK, does Jordan Beck hit 1 home run or 2 home runs tonight? Potts, Dave, Cheese.
I think he will hit 1. 0 is more likely than 2, of course, but I will say he hits 1.
All right. Do you think Elder is a viable play at pitcher tonight, Neil?
Do I have any Elder? Let me see. I have 2% Elder. So I think, he's going against Washington. Always viable against Washington. Sure, why not?
Cheese, you said you had 0 Gordon tonight. Neil, how much Gordon do you have tonight?
How much Gordon do I have? 0.0%.
Yeah, so I'm running 150. I also have 0 Gordon tonight. So 0 Gordon across the board for the 3 of us. Which stack do you prefer? And these are actually my 2 favorite sneaky stacks on the slate. But which stack do you prefer, Cheese? Toronto or Tampa?
I'm gonna say Toronto. Like, they're both just in that you should play them in MME. Like, it's one of those games where like the pitchers are pretty good, but not like they've both had their problems too. I'll say slightly Toronto, but I feel almost exactly the same about both of them.
Adolis Garcia or Evan Carter tonight, Neil?
I'm going Evan Carter. He was my sneaky home run pick, so it's got to be Evan Carter for me.
All right. DK large field tournament. I have a Dodgers full stack with a Rockies 3-man. I have 7,600 remaining for my SP2. Should I go Elder, or is there someone else you'd like, Cheese?
I'll answer that 2 ways. One is I ran into that kind of thing a bunch of times, and I reworked all my lineups so I didn't have to play any of those pitchers. That's really my answer. That's where I would play Gordon. I would play Gordon before Elder, personally.
All right. That looks like we have basically hit all of the questions. One more. Thoughts on Vaughn and DK Cash? We hit that one already, I believe. We said go Jock Peterson instead. Ozuna or Garcia, you hit that one. You said Ozuna there, Neil. And so we have, in fact, hit all of the questions, and we are coming up upon a lock right now. You guys gave your home run plays. We got my Spidey Bomb scrolling at the bottom. Mark Vientos plus 420, Jonathan Aranda plus 480, Ellie De La Cruz plus 500, and Bo Bichette plus 680. My home run picks today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in with us. Thank you for smashing the like button. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit it on your way out for us. On behalf of myself, Dave, Neil, Cards, as well as Dean and Kyle for helping us out through GrindersLive. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bright and early tomorrow, early slate. So don't forget to tune in bright and early. I believe we start at 11:30 a.m. for crunch time with Dean and Stevie and Cardi. So up bright and early tomorrow. Don't forget about that. We'll see you next time, everybody. Peace.